Welcome to What's Your Story? I'm your host, Sharita Williams, and today I have a special guest. It's February, so it's Black History Month, and I thought we should go back and just pay homage to our culture. Our culture is so rich in so many things: education, food, music. But today we have a legend that we're going to bring forth today. His name is DC Glenn. He is one part of the dynamic duo Tag Team. He is famous for whoop, there it is. So please help me welcome DC Glenn to the show. DC, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
DC, tell our viewers, because we have so many viewers of the millennial age, just who DC Glenn is.
Well, my name is DC Glenn, aka DC the Brain Supreme of Tag Team. I made a song back in the olden days called Whoop, There It Is. And I know you've heard of it because it was recently featured as a parody in the Adweek official commercial of the year, Scoop There It Is, for Geico. And I have been working real hard for 28 years, really all my life. And I'm just here to talk to people who's willing to listen about my experience, about the things I've done, the things that have traumatized me, the things that have led me to be the man that I am today.
Absolutely. So who and what inspired you to do music?
Well, my father, when we were little, we had a basement. And it was full of instruments. So he was like, "I'm gonna learn music. I don't care what you pick, you're gonna learn music." And my father played trumpet, so he picked it for me. He's like, "You're gonna play the trumpet, boy." And my mother was like, "You're gonna play the piano." So I had to go to piano and trumpet lessons, and I didn't really like it because it kept me away from playing with my friends. Because back then we used to play, right? And that's what we lived for, to go outside and play. And it didn't not until high school when I switched from a Catholic high school to the public high school, because I needed more culture. Or because I lived around Black folks, so I wanted to be around my friends that I grew up in the neighborhood, in high school. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And that's where I met Steve Rowland. And we sat next to each other because his last name is Gibson, my last name is Glenn. And Steve had a band that would play in the quad. And I was like, I got to be in that band. And then I worked in the truancy office with Miss Patton and Miss Payne, Manual High School class of 84. And I would hear beautiful music down the hall. And Dr. Joyce Davis led the Manual Bolt Vibration Choir. And I was like, I got to be in that choir. I think I can sing. And it was just so beautiful with me. It touched my heart. And later on that first semester in the fall, I went to my first high school dance where I saw a DJ with 2 turntables and a mixer. And I was like, oh yeah, I got to be a DJ. And I set my sights on mastering all 3, and I did. Got into Steve's band, and I was the one getting the shows and making sure we practice and just the leader. I, was in the Bolt Vibrations choir, sang very well. I was a tenor, ended up being the leader. And then I honed my DJ skills, and that gave me a career that I still have to this day, if I wanted to. So music for me was a little different than most people. And I came up at the beginning of hip hop. So as I graduated from high school, I went to college at Sac State University. I never forget, I did my first party. I thought I was the bomb. I went and got with the Omega Psi Phi Soul Fraternity. And I was like, I can do your party. And it was like, okay. And it was the worst. It was just incredibly terrible. The speakers blew. I was picking up the needle off the wrong record. It was just horrible. They was about to beat me up. And I talked them out of it. And I could have easily have given up, but I quadrupled down. And I said, throughout your life, you're going to get these wake-up calls where you think you're all that and you're not, right? Because everything that's worth anything has to be earned. So I doubled down, tripled down, and I said, I'm going to learn how to be a better DJ. I'm going to learn how to be, at that time I was trying to rap. I'm going to be a better rapper. So I started writing lyrics. So I started coming up with tactics how to write better lyrics. I started putting together songs. I started doing all these things. And by the time I left college, I was one of the top DJs in Northern California. I did all the frat parties. I did all the big festivals. I did a lot of the clubs. But I knew that, this was my thinking back then. What is here for a Black man in Sacramento, California? It was like, what's the next step? And the next step was I came down to visit Steve in Atlanta because he came down here to go to the Art Institute. And I came down here and fell in love with Atlanta because it was Black folks living in harmony. And I grew up in a multicultural world, white folks, Asians, everybody. Half the high school was white, right? But we were all family. We were all together, right? I still was raised by, my parents would bring me down south every year. So I got, I understood what it was. My father was an educator. My mother was in the criminal justice system. So I understood it all. But coming to Atlanta, I knew right then and there I was coming back to Atlanta. I went back home, packed up a U-Haul, finished at Sac State, came down here. And I was, I kind of had the same thing, like, what am I going to do? But I knew I'd figure it out because it's just, I was so happy and having so much fun. So what happened is I went to this club called Magic City, and short story short, I ended up being the DJ there. So because I thought I was, I'm coming to Atlanta, I'm going to be the odd man in trying to get a DJ job. So, but it ended up because of all the work I put in, I was better.
So DC, how important was it for you to get back or to be around your culture? You said you came from multicultural, and like I said, I'm paying homage to Black history. How important was it to get back to your roots when and then you arrive in Atlanta and it is your roots?
I can't say that it was important, but my father was from Nashville, Tennessee, and my mother was from Tuskegee, Alabama. My father was an educator, got his doctorate degree. He was the dean of the University of Colorado Ethnic Studies. He created the curriculum for the entire state of Colorado's African-American studies. So in high school, even though we went to a multicultural school, we still had teachers who were from down south, or who, they were like my aunties too. They kept me straight. I had people in the community that kept me straight. I had neighbors that kept me straight. I had people in my church that kept me straight, right? But coming to Atlanta was the first time that I had seen that many Black people together in one spot, right? And it was just beautiful to me because back then it was Black people living in harmony. That was when Atlanta was the best kept secret. I got here when Babyface, L.A. Reid, Deion Sanders, Bobby Brown, I got here when they all got here. So that's kind of what started that cultural explosion in Atlanta. And, I worked at probably the #1 club in the city. So now instead of me having to, do all this marketing for myself and make myself this person, everybody came to me, and that elevated me to the status that I was because I was a good DJ. And I sold mixtapes and everything. And then, just me being innovative like I am, I had relationships with everybody, right? So me and Steve are making our music, but I realized that because we're from Denver and I was in Cali, we're making hip hop, but we're down south in the land of bass music, in the land of booty shake, right? And I knew that we were never going to get out of the Southeast with a rap record. So I went to Steve, I was like, man, we have got to make an up-tempo record. And he was like, I love bass music, but I just don't know how to make that stuff. And I was like, don't think bass music. Let's go back to the essence of hip hop, because to me, the essence of hip hop is Planet Rock by Afrika Bambaataa, Soul Sonic Force. Records like, Pac Jam and Al Nafish and Orbit and all those old electronic records, right? That was the nucleus of hip hop to me, because that's what started all the dancing, the break dancing, and it just flourished from there. And our first attempt was Whoop, There It Is. Steve made the beat. I had several songs I was working on, but Whoop, There It Is was like a party chant in the clubs. So I wrote it up. Steve wrote his. We did it. We went to the studio. It was August 92. And I'll never forget it. I had to go to work that night, had a cassette tape. For those who know what a cassette tape is, it's a plastic apparatus with a tape inside that plays music. And if you break it, you got to use a pencil and then put a little piece of tape on it to fix it, right? And put that tape in. And to this day, that has been the biggest response on any record I've ever played. And I've been DJing for 30 years. But as, you know, a young man, my hubris overwhelmed me. And I thought, well, every record I make is going to be the bomb. So I kind of shelved it. And then maybe like in January, one of the girls was like, how come you don't play Whoop There It Is? And I was like, I'll play it again. Same thing happened. And then back then we used to have record reps that would bring us vinyl from all the major labels, because back then it was New York and LA. And a guy named Alan Cole was in there night from Columbia Records. And he was like, what is that? And I was like, that's my new record, man. He was like, give me that. I'm going to New York. Went to New York 2 days later. I'm talking to Columbia Records about a record deal. I was like, shoot, I can do this with all the labels. And then I did that, but they didn't know what to do with it, right? And I almost gave up. But then a beautiful lady named Lisa McCall was a record rep. She said, you need to call Al Bell. And for those who don't know who Al Bell is, in the beginning of soul music, there were 3 record companies. There was Philly International, there was Motown, Berry Gordy, and there was Stax Records with Al Bell. And the year before, Al Bell had put out a record called Daisy Dukes by a group named Deuce. And it went gold. She was like, you need to call him. And I was like, that makes sense, because he would know what to do with this type of record. So I called him up, took him about 2 weeks to hit me back. And he called me and I was like, look, man, everybody else playing with me, but I'm telling you, I'm in the hottest clubs in the country. I got a hit record. You can make a lot of money. You need to sign us. And he was like, okay. I was like, no, don't play with me. I said, you haven't even heard the record.
Right.
And he said these words to me, I'll never forget. He said, brother, I don't have to hear the record. I hear it in your spirit. Let's agree to agree. And let's get this thing going. I was like, cool. And I gave my 2 weeks in Magic City, signed a messed up record deal. And in a month and a half, we were platinum. And the rest is history. So
DC, I love the part where you said you almost gave up. We have, we live in a world where acceptance, we want everything fast. Mm-hmm. So we have so many of our young brothers and sisters who say, oh, you ask, what do you do for a living? I'm a producer. What are you producing? So help our young people with that journey, especially from you being in the music industry. Mm-hmm. What does that look like? You said, especially what you're saying, I just signed, the guy didn't even want to hear your music or didn't hear your music. He heard it in your voice. Your determination is what he heard. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, as a man, you are responsible for the choices that you make. So at that time, I didn't know everything that I should have. And I kind of knew I was signing a messed up deal, but I said, I want to be a rock star. I'll deal with it later. Right. And I wouldn't change that for anything. Right. Because having to deal with that adversity, you develop tactics that either you're going to fail and you're always going to quit, or nothing is going to get in your way. And for me, I looked at that scenario as the glass half full as opposed to the glass half empty. That's what keeps me from not giving up on anything. It's like, it's easy to give up, right? But to go through the hard work and to earn it, I always tell people it ain't nothing but work. And all the new artists out there, I try to help everybody, but I tell them things that they don't want to hear, right? Everybody I give a chance, I say, okay, you want, put me down, DC, put me down. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send you this book. And if you don't like to read or don't know how to read, I'll send you this video, this folder. Take about a month, read it, get back to me. 98% of people don't get back to me, right? But every now and then, somebody will do what I ask them to do. because I got to know you're serious.
And you know what? In DC, and that's what it's all about. We're going to take a break and we'll be right back.
Calling all HBCU alumni, supporters, and golfers. It's that time of year again. Yes, the HBCU Swing Into Their Dreams Charity Golf Tournament on Tuesday, April 5th. If you missed the last one, you have time once again to be epic. Don't miss the golf tournament of the year, the Swing Into Their Dreams HBCU Charity Golf Tournament at the Atlanta National Golf Club in Milton, Georgia, Tuesday, April the 5th. Registration begins now. Sign up your golf teams at swingintotheirdreams.com. That's swingintotheirdreams.com or call 770-686-7148. That's 770-686-7148. Don't miss it.
We're back. Today, my guest is DC Glenn, one of the dynamic duos of Tag Team. We've been talking about his journey from being in the music industry to the entertainment industry. So DC, let's pick up with the name Tag Team. How did you get the name Tag Team, you and Steve?
It's real simple. Used to be three of us. My man Otis P, but he went to the service when we were young. So it was just me. We used to be called the Tag Team Crew. Tag team comes from, probably wrestling, where if one person's not doing too well, you tag out, next one comes in, they get busy. So that part of it's simple. And then ended up just being me and Steve, because me and Steve were the only ones out of the band that really all stuck together. And it ended up becoming Tag Team. And it's been that ever since. Mm-hmm. And, we worked very, very hard. And, in this music industry, it's just about it's not about really your talent. It's about the deal you sign, right?
Absolutely.
If you sign a really good deal, you're going to have a chance to weather the storm of the first, 1, 2, or 3 albums. Most people don't even get past the first single because they don't do their due diligence and sign the right contracts. And that's your responsibility as a young man. So all I do when I talk to people is I try to talk to people about the things I wish someone had told me when I was young, which is going back to my story about Cordell. He called me back after a month and he was like, okay, man, I get this, but don't I need to go to the clubs? Don't I need to do this? Don't I need to get some gold? I was like, no. I was like, what? Explain it to me. And I was like, I know you tried to read it, so I explained it to him. And then he's like, okay, I get it, but don't I need, I was like, this is why I did this, because I fully understand now that you'll never get taken advantage of because I gave you the back end first. The front end is easy. That's the money, the fame, the cars, the clothes, the girls. I don't worry about, I'm telling you what is going to happen to you after that. After all that phase, because it will fade, what do you have? Do you have your rights? Do you have your music publishing? Do you have this? So I have full confidence that you won't get taken advantage of because I've given you the back end. You can have a mediocre song and live off that record forever, right? Mm-hmm. And I've lived off of Whoop There It Is for 28 years. And we own the rights, but we don't own the rights, right? Because we're in a constant state of recoupment. Right. So for years, this record company's like, well, you owe us money. And this record, you got another record company, well, you owe us money. Then both record companies start fighting for the rights. And then we're the pawns in the middle. And then now it's like we're still paying back royalties, or not royalties, but legal fees. Like when you go through legal battles, you win. But in any war, you're going to come back. You might be missing a leg, an arm, got an eye patch, because it's not easy. Right. But we did prevail. We earned on 50% of our music publishing. But I never looked at that and got bitter because of that. I never looked at that and said, woe is me, and played the victim. I said, okay, if we're going to be in a legal battle, I'm going to get my day in court. Let me become a paralegal. See, I take trauma that would just debilitate anybody else or make them bitter. And I turn that into something positive. You know, I look at the glass half full, not half empty. So I basically became a paralegal. I learned how you make a motion. How does a court case come to trial? What is discovery? How do you go back and get court cases and then, you know, correlate them to this? I used to give everything to my mama, and she put it in a trunk in the basement. I got all the paperwork from the beginning to the end. So I put it in a nice, neat pile of discovery. And when it came time to get our lawyers to get our day in court, we prevailed.
Yeah.
Because I
So
turned
DC,
something positive.
yeah. So DC, we have so many rappers out there, you know, and especially in our culture, you know, all they want to do is rap, 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 but there's more to it than the song, you know. So take them a little bit on your journey with, you know, I know you said that, I don't know if you signed a bad contract or you almost signed a bad contract, but help our viewers, especially I want who aspire to be rappers, because there's more than rapping, you know, you've got to have education.
If I had to tell them one thing, learn music publishing. Find every book you can, library, find every article you can, find everything, you got a phone, find everything you can about music publishing, and don't stop until you learn it inside out.
Exactly.
And that
so DC, now you, and if I'm wrong, you know, correct me. Now you work for CNN, is that correct?
I had a job at CNN, but the first night I worked at Magic City, I made $500. I was like, I could do this in the fall. And then I started, the DJ thing blew up so much on me. I was making $1,000 a night. Not going to make that anywhere. Right. And I got to do what I love to do first and foremost, which is DJing. And then I got to play my own records.
Right. And so you got to do that. And by being a DJ, you could also promote your music. Exactly. And that came into marketing and PR. And that's something that I think our young viewers don't know about. It's the marketing and the PR and the labels, you know, and royalties. You know, how did you, I know you said you recoup some of your royalties, but how do you know about signing a contract?
So it's up to you to find a lawyer, but you can circumvent a lot of that by understanding music. Music publishing is the whole game, right? Music publishing deals with every aspect of everything in a contract that you're going to deal with. So you can have a terrible deal, but if you have all your publishing, you can make money later on, right? Music publishing is the most important part of it. The marketing, all the other stuff, that's important too. But my journey on that level was different because I was a real self-help geek, right? And I've been from everything from Zig Ziglar to Anthony Robbins to TD, I mean, everything, right? And you pick up one or two things off of every book you read and you add them to your hustle because everybody like, I'm a hustler, I've got game. Okay, it's time to refine your hustle, right? Because when I say hustle, it's different from your hustle, right? So me hustling is if I'm DJing, I'm not just your DJ. I am your light guy. I'm your sound guy. I do your voiceover for your radio spots. I do your TV commercials. I do your fashion photography. I do your magazines. I do everything. In essence, I make myself invaluable to a company. Therefore, that company has to hire 10 people to do all the things that I do. Nobody wants to do that. So that's how you get paid handsomely, right? And while I'm there, even if I tell people that are in dead-end jobs or they want to blame their job for all their ills, I'm like, that's an opportunity for you to learn at your job because you can learn how to do everybody else's job. Right. I ain't about to do all that extra work. Well, if somebody else is sick and the boss say, I need somebody to do that, where's she at? She's sick today. I got it.
Absolutely. And education and learning is so important. And that's part of WYTV7 platform, education and empowerment and encouragement. So so we know about how important education is, and we know how important the journey is of playing the music. But what if you don't know any of that? What if you just have a song? You know, talk to our listeners. You have a song, you don't know what to do with it. I know they got TikTok, they got Instagram. How do you get that song to the next level?
There's 100 ways to do that, right? So I'm gonna take it away from music because this is universal, okay? I have developed hustle tactics over the years that when I get stuck or when I'm at the beginning of something I'm trying to do, the only thing that I do is I join an organization, association, or society, because those entities are filled with people who have been doing their profession 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and they're trying to make their profession better, right? So all you gotta do is join an organization on songwriting, and now you get to talk to all the people who are songwriters that can tell you how to get where you need to be. Or if you can't afford to get an organization, call every number on that organization's website and ask them questions, and then do it like this. Don't call them and ask them questions, how do I do this? Call them and ask them questions on, why should I give you my money to be in this organization? And then what's going to happen is they're going to pitch you. Well, because we do this, and do that. Well, if I have a song and do this, well, how would I do that in your organization? Well, you could do this, and do that. And what they don't realize is while they're pitching you, they're teaching you, right?
Absolutely.
There are tons of music organizations that you can go and call every number on there and just talk to people and ask questions, because what do they say? Closed mouth don't get fed. It don't cost you anything. But are you willing to put in that work? Are you willing to put your pride aside and know that you don't know something so you can go learn something, right? So whenever somebody tells me I can't do something, or whatever something happens traumatic to me, I join organizations. That's how I became my own publicist. That's how I became my own booking agent. That's how I became versed in SEO. That's how I became versed in writing Wikipedia pages and Wikidata. That's how I became a voice artist. That's how I became an actor, because I go find the information, because nobody is going to give you anything. You got to go get it. That is my number one way of doing it. When I was in high school, I used to get everybody jobs, because everybody, man, I was looking for a job. I couldn't find no jobs. Like, how many places did you go? 4? I was like, you drove around the city 4? Oh, you went to 4 places? I said, I get you a job in 5 minutes. Go get me them yellow pages. For those who know what yellow pages are, a big, thick yellow book with like a computer in a book, right? And I like, what you want to do? Restaurant? Like, okay. And I call people, hey, how you doing? Are you hiring? Nope. All right, thank you. Hey, how you doing? Can I come fill out a job application? Well, we're not hiring right now. Okay, cool. Hey, are you filling out applications or hiring? Shoot, this girl just quit. You can get here today. I got you. There you go, dog. Right? All you do is get in the phone book and call people and ask them what they needed. That's what SEO is. It is the ability to answer the question with what you provide and what your service is and what your talent is and what you can do. If you can answer someone else's question, you create value and can get paid for that, right? So that's a tactic. But the main tactic for me is to join organizations, because they're going to lead you in the right direction. And then you can know if what you're trying to embark on is for you or not. And then don't give up. Once you start something, don't give up. And people's like, DC, you're all over the place. You're a jack of all trades, master of none. I was like, yeah, but if you live long enough, learn how to learn, because it's not enough just to learn. You got to learn how to learn and hustle. You become masterful at some of those trades. And
Absolutely.
then they come back to serve you in a way that makes you ambidextrous in life. Nobody can throw anything at you that will throw you. It will inspire you to be better. All I'm trying to do is be a better man today than I was yesterday. That's the question I ask myself every day. How am I better today than I was yesterday? Well, I did this. This is always a long list, because I got long lists of things that I need to do. It's the only way. There's no way around it, under it, over it. The only way to it is through it. That's the shortest path.
Absolutely. So, listening to you, DC, we know you've done your due diligence. We know you've done your education. So is that how you got the name, the Brain Supreme?
I got the name, the Brain Supreme, because I problem solved, right? A guy named Roy Lee Davis. We was in the basement of Stars Grocery, having fun as young kids. we were young men, you know, drinking, having a good time, and we just talking, shooting it. And he's like, man, you always come up with just a great answer to things. Man, I'm gonna call you the brain supreme, right? And it just stuck. And my rap name was, you know, they called me DC because when I went to California, they're like, where you from? Like Denver, Colorado. They're like, they got black folks in Denver, Colorado. I was like, yeah. And that stuck. So just DC the Brain Supreme. That was my rap name. And it's more of a testament to my parents. I am forever grateful for them making me work. They made me and my little brother work like dogs because I have been stemming collard greens and shucking peas since I was 5 years old, right? My mother had a prep cook. Father made me wash cars, mow the lawn, cut the hedges, rake the leaves. We had chores. And I think about when I was like 8, 9 years old, we had a blizzard in Denver, Colorado. And we were the only family on the block had a snowblower. So we just kids playing in snow. I do our lawn. Mr. Grant struggling next door. Mr. Grant, I got you. I go do his lawn. Then we just did the whole neighborhood. Then all of a sudden, right, the next week, me and my brother are coming home from school, and everybody's like, "Come here, boy. It's $25. I appreciate you doing my walkway." And a hustler was born because I'm like, my parents only give me $5 a week. I get $25 a house. And then I've been a hustler ever since. I do not fear work. I had a paper route. I worked at the AV department of the university when I was 14. I worked at Dolly Madison. I've been chefing. I do not fear work as a grown man. And I am forever grateful to my parents because it ain't nothing but work. And there's nothing I can't do and nothing I won't put my mind to achieve.
Yeah. So DC, we have a theme for our platform this year. It's called I'm Trying. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, this interview has been so inspiring. We're going to bring you back for part 2. But what I want to know from you in 2022, what is DC Glenn trying to do?
So it's hard for me to say what I'm trying to do because I don't look at it that way. Because if I say everything that I'm trying to do, people are like, DC, you can possibly do all that. And I tell people, you know what? You're right. I said, but I sure enough can be prepared for everything. They're like, that makes sense. Yeah. And I just shake my head because it's like, you just disapproved of something that I just said a different way that you approve of now. Because preparation is doing everything. I prepare. So if I plant a seed, right? I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, I want this seed to grow. Come on, seed, grow. Please grow, seed. Why don't this seed, man, this seed don't work. I quit. That's most people, right? I plant that seed, keep it moving, but I prepare for what I planted because I don't know how long it's going to take, right? I don't know what kind of tree it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to bear fruit. I don't know if it's going to be a pine. I don't know what it's going to be. I just prepare. So when it come back around and hit me in the head, I'm ready, right? So that's how I think about things. But if you ask me what I'm working on 1,000 things. I'm working on SEO, search engine optimization. I'm working on JSON schema, LD, which is coding. I'm working on, because I had a Geico commercial, how can I turn one Geico commercial into 10 Geico commercials? I'm also working on how to get more shows, how to get more festivals, how to get more charity events. I'm also becoming a public speaker, so I'm becoming a motivational speaker at colleges and corporate events, right? Like I am always preparing for everything. I'm preparing for the next acting role that I'm getting. I've got 2 TV shows coming out. I've got a movie coming out. I've got all these things working because I prepare for those seeds that I planted. And the pandemic gave me the wherewithal to promise myself and to vow that I'm not going to leave this earth regretting something that I didn't do that I wish I had done.
That's powerful.
I put in work.
That's powerful. You put in the work.
Yeah.
You planted the seed, now you're receiving the harvest. And even though, people think harvest, oh, I'm going to sit back. Harvest means time to go to work. Well, DC Glenn, we want to thank you for coming on our show and letting your story become a part of our story. And we're going to bring you back for a second segment. But we just want to thank you and, and thank you for sharing with our viewing audience. And we will talk to you soon. Whoop, there it is.
Sprinkles.